Hello everyone, I'm Charlie Tolhurst and welcome to the Globetrotter Newscast for today, the 13th of June, live on Facebook and YouTube tonight, guys. Hello everyone, welcome. We've got so much to talk about tonight here on the Globetrotter Newscast, and I'm joined by Labour Party supporter Zach Chambers to round up all the latest news. Hello, Zach.
Hi, hello.
Well, Zach, I want to start off this show today by talking about a launch of a brand new news channel here in the UK called GB News. Andrew Neil currently presenting at the moment. And Zach, this news channel is apparently known by you as Fox News of Britain. What do you make of the new investment that they've put into this channel?
It's interesting. I actually wrote a blog post on about this, which I'll actually send to you after after I've done this with you. But nevertheless, Charlie, I think it's interesting because this is one of the most exciting new launches of a news channel in Britain in about years, a generation. This is a channel that's trying to be different, obviously, to Sky, BBC, and there's the kind of channels that you usually see, rolling news channels that you normally see 24 hours a day. They're trying to be different from that, and that they're trying to provide news, but they take a format of what we see in America of say MSNBC on the left and Fox News on the right, and they deliver news when it happens, but they deliver news-based programs rather than rolling news. They build it around the presenters and everything like that. So this is what GB News is all about. It's delivering, apparently according to them, it's news for all of the UK, England, Northern Ireland, Wales, Scotland. And it's, as I said, it's a brand new news channel. It's got famous faces such as Andrew Neil, who's probably one of the best political interviewers in the country. You've got the likes of Dan Wootton, who, if you remember, used to be presenter at Talk Radio, written for The Sun. He's very well known on his opinions. And that's the controversy around this, Charlie, is that some of the presenters have well-known opinions. So how do you expect them to be balanced on on a news channel when discussing issues that matter? Well, obviously, we've got something called the Ofcom. Ofcom have got certain regulations to stop basically, let's just say, Fox-defying the channel. I say Fox-defying because we know what the likes of MSNBC, Fox News are like in America. They don't have, in America, Charlie, they don't have, the impartiality rules or the strict impartiality rules that we have in the UK. So it's, so that's why we're not going to be Fox News because there is regulations in the place to do that, but they're going to try and focus on something outside what they call the London bubble, deliver new local news that matters. And I actually think that's a positive for the channel, Charlie. Sometimes news channels are a bit too much into the Westminster goes on, when you realise what happens in Westminster is not actually what happening could be in outside in the north, for example, Scotland or Wales. They are all, each area is different, Charlie. And the fact is that how GB News is trying to really invest in local news, I think is really good, actually. I think that's positive. That it's mainly going to be, excuse me. Oh, sorry, I've just had a curry, so I've still got mouth of it. They're going to do a lot of opinion. They're going to do a lot of debates. They're going to obviously work out clicks for social media and all sorts of that. But I have my doubts, but I'm really looking forward to it. And I will send you what I put, Charlie, because I think it's important that, I should have put this. I should have sent it to you the other day, but I have my views now, and I will send it to you, Charlie. I finish with.
I'm certainly after this podcast, I will actually be listening, and I think Dan Wootton is on at 9 o'clock for the Tonight Show.
From
Sunday till Thursday, 9 to 11, and some interesting guests on tonight. I believe Nigel Farage is on at 9:45.
Oh my
probably.
Goodness.
Don't know what he'll be talking about. Maybe the migrant crisis, potentially.
Well, we don't. Maybe he will. Nigel Farage has obviously been, the king of Brexit. So, and this channel is sort of targeted at that left behind audience who maybe supported not breakfast. Goodness me, I have breakfast every morning, but Brexit. They're kind of going that type of audience. I think, they think the news channels are too liberal, too metropolitan, and that there's a load of people outside that bubble that don't feel like they've been heard because they're too focused on the London aspect of it. So, yeah, I'm not going to judge this channel yet because I know some people call for advertising boycotts of it because it's going to be some right-wing mouthpiece channel that's going to, ruin the culture of the UK and stoke up tensions. I don't think that will be the case. I think there'll be definitely a leanage towards more right, some what you call centre-right content. But I don't think we'll get to the Foxification of the channel in the UK. No, I don't think that will happen.
It's going to be an interesting one, Zach, but they've got lots of presenters. I believe I've just got some of the lists up here. We've got Andrew Neil tonight with Dan Woodson. We've got the Great British Breakfast Show, Kirsty Gallagher presenting. We also have Neil Oliver as well, who I read up one of his articles the other day about lockdown and his views on lockdown. Saying it didn't work. It was all the articles. You can check them online as well. You've got Colin Brazier, I think, doing a show.
Yeah,
Free Speech Nation
Colin Brazier
with Andrew Doyle. Yeah, go on, Zach.
Colin Brazier. Colin Brazier has worked many years at Sky, and I've watched him as well. Obviously, I've watched Andrew Neil a lot. There's some familiar faces, Dan Woodson on there. Alistair Stewart, probably one of the most well-known journalists across the UK. Neil Oliver. Now, Neil Oliver is another journalist. He used to do history and architects and history and all that sort of thing. And he's moving into news journalism, which is very interesting. But he penned an article, I think, for the Herald, the other day. He called the lockdown the biggest single mistake in the world history. Okay, I thought, well, very interesting take, but I thought, World War II, World War One, COVID were all worse than being shut in our houses and surviving off of that. I'm sure. Well, yeah, no. I think that's a bit of a OTT, perspective on things. Considering he's a historist, I thought he would be better than that. But I don't agree. No, he's always got opinion, and he's obviously going to show it. But yeah.
Yeah, there's some interesting presenters. I mean, the list is massive. You've got Alistair Stewart, McCoy and Phillips. Simon McCoy joining the channel used to be a BBC presenter, if I'm correct.
Yes, Simon McCoy, a well-loved presenter on BBC News. He used to get his he just spit out the dummy. Really, he does. He's a laughable. He also hates covering royal births or royal announcements. Let's see if that'll get to put up on topic, because I'm sure he'll blush whenever that's been brought up or something like that. That will just be the running joke that he can avoid now, basically. But yes, he's got a show that's from 3 to 6 with Alex Phillips, who used to be a Brexit Party MEP, no doubt. You wouldn't believe. She also got caught up in controversy, I remember, at the time MEP, when she found out to be working for Cambridge Analytica, who you may have remembered once famously harvested data from Facebook and spied on all everyone's users and stuff like that. So yeah, one very common journalist working against a controversial one.
Yeah, so GB News, guys, is currently on at the moment. Dan Woodson's show will launch at 9 o'clock tonight. And yeah, you can watch it on channel 626 and also on your radio as well. We're going to move on now, Zach, from GB News' launch to the big news of the weekend. We had the G7 summit in Cornwall this weekend. And it was the first overseas trip for President Joe Biden visiting the UK and Boris Johnson hosting the event. What did you take away from this year's G7 summit in Cornwall?
Well, first of all, I think from this year's G7, Charlie, I think the reputation of the US is certainly welcomed in the G7 again. Let's just say that. It feels like America's back, and it feels like they have something to bring. Like Joe Biden announced the other day, they would bring 500 million vaccines to donate 500 million vaccines across the world. 200 at the end of this year, 300 by the middle of 2022. So yeah, it does feel like they're really back. We've also known also what Boris Johnson does in his spare time as well, such as swimming across the Cornish area. Also, other things dominating is the drama, Charlie, between the EU, Ursula von der Leyen, Charles Michel, European Union Commissioner, and EU Council President as well was also there. The drama, I think, of the Northern Ireland Protocol has really boiled over, Charlie, if you haven't been following this, because of the unresolved issues. And it really has, caused a lot of problems, I think, in terms of relationship between the EU now and the UK. Now, the US, I think if this doesn't get resolved, the US will firmly want to get involved in this, seeing as Joe Biden has Irish roots and I think his government at the time, the US government was involved in the negotiations of the Good Friday Agreement. He knows all that also well. So there is several things over. One, there's US is back on the stage. There's no gaffes and, absolute embarrassments on there. Two, there's still drama there between the EU and the UK. And three, it really does feel like there's an effort to start tackling climate, the vaccines and everything like that, the global tax, everything's been on that agenda recently. It does feel like there are moving into development and how to obviously handle China, Russia, and all that. So it does feel like there has been some progress made on that. And it does show that there is a sense of unity, I think, more than ever, Charlie, around this.
It's a big... I mean, Zach, I watched some of the G7. I saw Boris Johnson meeting many of the world leaders, including Justin Trudeau, Canadian Prime Minister, Emmanuel Macron, French President, all of them sort of talking about the Northern Ireland Protocol, about the vaccines, about climate change. So David Attenborough was on, I think, the other day talking about climate change as well. So it's very clear to sort of talk about these key issues. One thing I did take away, though, from the G7 summit, and this is something very, very interesting, was what I saw in the room, because none of the world leaders actually wore masks whilst having the meeting. And I found that quite interesting, actually.
Well, there was social distancing unless you got to the bit where they were on the beach together. That's when they were all cuddled up and hurling around. And I think even Trevor Phillips, even on Sky News this morning, sort of grilled Dominic Raab on this, is saying, "Oh, why can't we have weddings with this sort of size and funerals, and yet you can all gather on a beach with 25 or 30, a limit of 30?" Well, apparently I read there was about 27 there, which is actually within the legal limits of gatherings. But yeah, there's certainly not all measures were taken as precaution. And keep in mind, Charlie, although there's probably many of them have been vaccinated by now, there is obviously an element, because this looks really silly, especially with the Indian variant or the Delta variant, as we now know it as, going around and literally spearheading the UK at the minute. And I'm sure we'll get into that in a moment, Charlie.
Yeah.
There is a sense, I think some would say, of entitlement, if we're going to put it in that kind terms, of the rules being followed here. I must admit, to be fair, if you're 25, 27 outside, where masks, there are an outside space, to be fair. That's the one point I have to make.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
It's an interesting one, Zach, I have to say, with the G7. But the event was ran. I believe Biden had tea with Queen Elizabeth today, according to what I read up on the news. But he will be flying back to the US. Lots of agenda over there he's going to be taking part in. And I'm sure many of the world leaders flew over. This was actually not on, it was virtual last year because of the pandemic, but they did hold it this year in Cornwall. So we'll cover that later, but we're going to move on now, Zach. You talk to cover the COVID-19 news now from the UK. Now, Delta variant is spreading, believe 91% of cases now of the Delta variants. It is spreading across the country. And tomorrow, Zach, is due to be the announcement from the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, about whether the 21st of June will be going ahead. Could you see this happening potentially?
If you want to give my honest opinion, no. It looks like, based on the briefings that we've had to the papers over the weekend, it looks like there's going to be a delay. What delay? We don't know for certain. Some speculated 2, maybe 4 at them likely. But it looks like cases are going up much bigger now. Well, I think the other day was 8,000 or so cases, Charlie. Excuse me. That the cases are going up and hospitalizations are starting to creep up as well. We've learned a bit more about this Delta variant recently as well, I think, Charlie, because this does appear to be a little bit more deadlier, does appear to be more transmissible, and seems to affect young people a little bit more as well, which is very worrying. Very, very worrying, because it appears those even fully vaccinated are still at risk as well, which is safe to say not very good. But yeah, I have to say, Charlie, I've got to say this, right? Okay, the reason why tomorrow is going to be likely to be a delay of an announcement of delay is because Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, failed to shut down, basically failed to stop India going on the red list when it was needed. And that's all I think can be blamed on if there is a delay tomorrow. It's nothing else. If this was under control, Charlie, maybe we would have seen a slight increase, but not like the ones where you have slow inaction, and like we've seen with the Delta variant in India put on the red list. I'm sorry, that's the reason why tomorrow is likely going to be a delay. Now, not official yet, Charlie, but it could all change overnight. But I think like tomorrow it's going to be a delay. And the reason why it's going to be a delay is because Boris Johnson failed to shut the Indian put India on the red list when needed. I think that's all it's down to.
This is don't expect this to be a stay-at-home order again. This is going to be a delay to stage 4. I mean, a lot of the listeners might go, "Oh God, we could end up back where we was in January." This isn't going to happen, guys. We're in a much better position now than we were last year. I mean, Zach, what do you have any new for the listeners? What do you reckon they would expect? Do they expect to be under the same restrictions come the 21st of June?
Yeah. I think so. I don't think we'll have any more restrictions. I just think they're going to be delayed to the plan of lifting them. So I don't think we're going to have any more. But I don't think we're going to have any more restrictions. But we're not going to lift anything else with it as well. So I think that's what's going to happen. I know a lot of people are going to be bitterly disappointed with this as well. 4 weeks is, I think, suitable because then you can review the data after about 3 or so weeks. So then you get a decision by then. But it's devastating blow to a lot of people who thought they were going to reopen the 21st of June. I remember Andrew Lloyd Webber basically saying that he'll open regardless. Well, good luck if you want to go to prison, mate. But yeah, it will disappoint a lot of people. Me, I'm disappointed if that's the case. I also think it will have to be necessary, unfortunately, Charlie. Because I think of inaction and the lesson that should have been learned. You know, they should act swiftly on these things, Charlie. I cannot believe how they not learned that. Act swift when needed to be. And this is the one thing that they have failed to do, the government, all along throughout this, is not to be too slow when it's needed.
And Zach, the issue I have is the borders. That needs to be sorted out. India on the red list. They should have stopped the flights coming in from India, stop the flights coming from Brazil. It stops these poxy variants coming in. And I mean, on the subject of the lockdown, I am very disappointed because I wanted this date to go ahead. But I know for hospitality businesses and self-employed and sole traders, this is probably going to be a hammer blow for them. In terms of they have to face uncertainty. We were expecting potentially full crowds at Euros, the Euro matches, the British Grand Prix, potentially. Well, it seems like we're not going to get a full crowd. It might just be 25% full or something like that. And I mean, I sort of sit here tonight a little bit disappointed because this was meant to be a big day for us. It was meant to be called Freedom Day, where we were finally free of this. But
yeah,
what can I say? I kind of feel like right now these restrictions are going to be provoking us, and I think, Zach, as well, the economic consequences of these, having these in for any longer, are going to be massive, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's going to be certain industries, the hospitality industry, you know, the entertainment industry, that are going to feel so disappointed by what is most likely going to be an announcement of a delay. I could be wrong. You never know. We could be chatting the next week, Charlie. We could be wrong again. But yeah, it is a disappointment for them. And they will want financial compensation. I think, for delay. So yeah, I expect a lot of disappointed voices to come out tomorrow. If it is the case that there is going to be delay,
particularly the COVID recovery group as well, Mark Harper pushing for this to be lifted, and I don't blame him really. I mean, I understand people's frustrations. I mean, we'll see what's announced tomorrow, but what I've been hearing, this looks like we're going to be delayed for 4 more weeks. And I think, Zach, what could they do with this delay if it happens? Do you expect that they should, by doing this, increase vaccinations of second doses?
Yeah, I think, you know, that would be a good idea. You know, I think, yeah, I think, you know, I think that should be a good idea. Obviously, the JCVI and the NHRA have got to make those decisions. I think that would be worth looking at a shot at, you know, in terms of trying to vaccinate more and more people. It's encouraging more and more people and opening vaccine to more and more people as well. So, yeah, that should be the effort really within the next 4 weeks, is to vaccinate, and get the second doses out, because this variant, you see, is less effective on the first dose than it is in the second dose. The second dose seems to be reasonably protected, but on the first dose, it doesn't seem to do the job as well, unfortunately.
Well, Zach, so, yeah. I can tell you for this, I mean, the thing is as well, I do expect potentially we could get an announcement about second doses being pushed forward. Because if you think about it, this variant, as far as I know, affects mostly unvaccinated people the most. So they're going to be wanting to get out these vaccines as quickly as possible. Could you see potentially moving second doses forward? Could the JCVI potentially do that for the whole population, if possible?
I think they should. I think, you know, I think they should really, to be fair. You know, it's a shame if they wouldn't, because then, you know, it means a lot of more people waiting. You know, they should go around the 8-week approach, like they did with the over 50s. They should expand it, maybe say 40 and over and stuff like that. Let's start expanding that, I think. So maybe that's the way to go, because that's the area that, you know, most of the problems happen, the health issues and all that. So I think that's probably where I think it should be going, really.
I am optimistic, though, about the restrictions being lifted next month. I hope to see them lifted next month. We'll keep you updated on this news, and we'll let you know about the news tomorrow on our social media pages about what is happening with the 21st of June. But we're going to move on now, Zach, to sport. I want to start whilst we're here with the Euros, because for England fans today, a win for our home country against Croatia, 1-0. And certainly a big win for us, but also someone in London, the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, actually was cheering on as well.
Yes. First of all, come on, England. Yes, a 1-0 victory over the Croatians today. And Friday we got the Scottish. One person described it to me as basically England versus Nicola Sturgeon. I wouldn't be so harsh on Nicola Sturgeon if I was okay. But yeah, big win over Croatia. I must admit, when I looked at the team lineup today, I thought, oh god, some of these players like, and then you know, I completely put that out of mind once we scored 1-0. I mean, we had a really good first half, a bit of a mere second half. I mean, mere 20 minutes for that first half. And then the second half, right, despite a couple of bit of pressure, I mean, it was so good they kept Raheem Sterling on the end of the day. Raheem Sterling, by the way, is just being MBE'd. Got this MBE'd this week by the Queen. Well done to him. And that I'm scoring a goal as well. So important. You know, but nevertheless, he did an exceptional job. You know, and England was fantastic today.
Well, that was great. We won 3 points. 3 points for us in that week for today. But the weekend has been overshadowed, Zach, by Christian Eriksen, who sadly collapsed prior to a football match. What do you make of this?
Yes, this was horrifying to watch, Charlie. He went down on his own. No contact at all. I thought he did make contact first because it looked like he was carrying his shoulder. Turns out it wasn't. Once you see doing the resuscitation on the field, you knew it was serious. I have to say, whoever you wait for the host broadcaster should be absolutely ashamed of some of the pictures they actually shown, because we did not need to see some of it. It was distressing us it is to watch. But yeah, the good news is, Charlie, he is recovering. And he it looks like he's in a stable condition, which is great news. I think it was Finland who won 1-0 that time. And obviously the first game, I think it was Turkey-Italy, was a 3-0 win for Italy as well. So yeah, that was a bit overshadowed, I think. All our best thoughts are with Christian Eriksen. It looks like he has been speaking to the players, thankfully. The doctor, I think, confirmed it was cardiac arrest, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't think he's previously had something like that before, or there was no signs or anything that's going to develop. So, but that was really horrible to watch yesterday, Charlie. It was a 90-minute game delay. It did interrupt. They did resume on the player's request. So, yeah, it was just horrible to watch, nevertheless, Charlie. It really was.
Yeah, and obviously Denmark lost that match 1-0 to Finland as well in that match. Some more Euro results coming. Wales drew Switzerland. Belgium were 3-0 winners at Russia. Austria beat Macedonia 3-1. And Netherlands and Ukraine currently goalless. Keep you updated on that score coming in as well. But of course, England's next match is on Friday, when they play, of course, Scotland. And that will be, I believe, that is a home match, just to clarify where that is been playing. So that is all Euro roundup. We'll have more on that next week. By the way, that runs from the 11th to the 11th, which is the 11th of June to the 11th of July as well. But Zach, moving on now to IndyCar. I want to talk about the first race at Detroit, because Marcus Ericsson claimed his maiden win in that race. However, though, there was a bit of a horrifying accident for Felix Rosenqvist, sadly, in the race. And Zach, what did you make of the first race at Detroit?
Yeah, first of all, Marcus Ericsson, that was great race from him. Seven wins, I think, from 7 races, I believe, Charlie, as well, which gives you shades of F1 2012 when there was 7 winners in 7 different races around there. Now we've had, I believe, for the second race, has happened as well, because this is double header in Detroit. It was Pato Ward that became basically the second time winner this season, Charlie. He just beat Joseph Newgarden with 3 laps remaining, I believe. But yeah, so Pato Ward becomes the second time winner this season. And he finished ahead. Newgarden, it was Award, Newgarden, Pelot in third, Colton 4th, Rail 5th, Will Power 6th, Scott Dixon 7th, Paginard 8th, Ericsson 9th, Ferrucci 10th. There was issues for Roman Grosjean, who's had a really bad weekend again. Crashed in race 1, finished 13 laps behind. I think he crashed in race 2. I haven't seen it, but because I've been watching so much of the football. But yeah, the Rosenquist crash. It looked like he had a hung throttle from what I read. And from what I saw, but yeah, he went in straight into that wall. That's very scary taking that corner, Charlie, and going in there with a hung throttle. I mean, the barriers did their job. He was obviously wounded by what happened, I think, Charlie. Very shaken up. And I read he doesn't have any serious injuries or stuff like that, which is really good news. But yeah, that was quite a scary accident, I have to say, Charlie. That was a very bad accident.
The good thing is Felix Rosenquist is okay and he has walked out of that crash. But yes, I must admit, Zach, the racing in Detroit was certainly very interesting, to say the least. I watched some of the action, some very big movers in the field. How did Jimmy? The thing is, though, Jimmy Johnson's had a difficult start to his IndyCar career. What do you make of his performances today?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously this is Jimmy Johnson. This is his first season in IndyCar. He's always racing. He's always obviously racing 4-wheelers, but he's obviously raced stock cars for many, many years. And this is obviously different, an environment where he's actually racing 4-wheelers, open cockpit cars. They're totally different to stock cars, and they're difficult. They're different controls, they're different in everything. So it's not surprised that he's struggling a little bit because it basically made his job as being NASCAR, stock cars rather than open wheel cars. So I don't think he's had the confidence there he's had to get the good results in. I think the same can't be said for, say, Roman Grosjean. It's a really good start, but that's experience. He's had all that experience in open wheel racing for all these years. So no wonder why he feels he's doing a better job there. But yeah, I think Jimmy has struggled throughout the
21st today in race 2 for Jimmy Johnson. 21st position. Race 1, I'm just getting the results up now for race 1. Let me have a look. Yeah, I think Jimmy Johnson, though, he finished well down the field. Race 2, he was only 21st. I'm just getting that up for you now. Race 1 it's taking me a little while. So apologies for the issues I'm having with my internet at the moment. But yeah, so Jimmy Johnson there probably finished around about the same place. But yeah, Zach, it's a shame because he's a very successful NASCAR driver, is Jimmy Johnson. And yeah, he's just not got the ground running at the moment. Same can't be said with Scott McLaughlin, who only managed 20th today in the Motown, in the Motown's original city. And Zach, we go to, I think next weekend, I think we're back racing. I think at Road America. Is that correct?
Yes, I think it is. It's the longest track on the calendar, I believe, as well, Charlie. Road America.
Yeah,
next weekend. I just remember off my head. Yeah, it will be the Rev Group Grand Prix at Road America, and that will take place across the narrow track of Wisconsin, also longest as well on the course. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Good. It's a good circuit, Road America. It's a really longest track, over 4 miles long. Big track, goes quite well, I think, for some drivers. Like I think Colton Herta goes quite well there. I think there's quite a few drivers. Joseph Newgarden, Alexander Rossi, some drivers go quite well there. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they get on at Road America. That's next weekend. Big race, that one, Road America, by the way, because it's a road course. So yes, that's the IndyCar action. And Zach, NASCAR now. Well, last week at Sonoma, Kyle Larson claiming the win. We have the All-Stars race on this weekend at Texas. I think these are non-championship races, by what I've been heard as well.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Now, let me get this up to see how the NASCAR All-Star race is going to work, because it's an interesting format they use for the All-Star race, because it's it's a championship event, so it's just for fun. But if you win it, you get $1 million basically. You know, and the $100,000 for the fastest pit crew. So the start line is set by the random draw. Let me just check who got pole. I think it was Carl. Was it Larson? I think got pole. Yes, it was. Larson got pole.
Yeah.
Bush. Yeah, Larson, Bush, Christopher, Cole Custer, Austin Dillon in 5th. I believe there were about 17 cars in this field of teams. It obviously doesn't sound a lot, but that's how it works, I believe.
There's 2 fields, I think.
Oh, right, there's 2 fields, right, okay. There's obviously the All-Star race and the All-Star Open. The All-Star Open is just that sprint. The All-Star race, let me just tell you this, it's starting like setting up a random draw. That's how it works. Right, I think I just remember now. So there's 17 so far, but you can work your race into the All-Star race by winning the All-Star Open, for example. So yeah, it's going to be a bit more. So round 1, 15 laps. After the field will be inverted somewhere everything from the 8th through 12th position to be selected by random draw. So that's all. Round 2, 15 laps from tie for inverted after the segment. Round 3, 15 laps, again inverted 8 to 12. Random draw. Round 4 is 15 laps. Round 5 is 30. Lineup for that round will be determined by cumulative figures from the first 4 rounds. That means you must do well within the first 4 rounds to have a good start position for round 5. And then round 6 is the 10-lap sprint. Cars will like from the finishing position from the final segment. So yes, this is a very complicated but fun little format. And it's the first time around for Texas, I believe, in quite a while. So, because I've been at Charlotte most of the way for all these years. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a very fun race, I think, Charlie. I think, race always yeah.
I think, Zach, I've just read up. It looks like it's been done by what I've been hearing on championship positions. Well, I've just checked the order for the second one. It looks like the drivers that are in that look like they're doing the chase. Obviously, Denny Hamlin hasn't won a race yet. So I find that quite bizarre. And he was then leading the championship because of his consistent results finishing. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that gets on. Of course, that's at Texas Motor Speedway. I believe, and also, Zach, as well, NASCAR had some more news out this week that they're apparently... After Joey Logano's crash at the Geico 500, apparently there's been news they might be slowing the cars down at Talladega and Daytona as well.
Yeah, they're going to change, I think, I think it's the splitters, I think. Right, here we go. I'm going to get up now, actually. So what they're going to do is mandate a small taper spacer. So the bigger the taper space, the more speed you have on a speedway. So the open are going to reduce from 57 to 64 inch to 53, 64 inch. They're also removing the wicker from the spoiler and introducing the roll bar behind the driver component near the rear wheel. That's now mandatory. So basically, that's going to slow the cars down approximately, according to NASCAR, by 7 to 10 miles an hour. Will it stop? Basically cars flipping, not necessarily, but it will reduce the chance. I think that's what they're aiming to do with this.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, if you remember watching our podcast back in the end of April, Joey Logano did suffer a horrifying crash, but luckily he walked out of that without any serious injury. So be interesting to see how NASCAR do adopt these regulations going forward. In terms of when the next actual race is going to be, I just getting up for you that now. That is at Nashville, the next race that is happening. And then after that, we then head to Pocono for I think a couple of races at Pocono, I think, actually. Saturday and Sunday race as well. And Zach, apparently I've been hearing that Chase Elliott has actually joined the Camping World Truck Series as well.
That's interesting. I haven't heard that one. I don't know. Has he? I'm very interested in that.
Yeah, I think I heard that he was racing in that series.
Oh, maybe. I'm not sure about that one. I haven't quite heard of that one.
Interesting, because I've been hearing, obviously, they've been racing, I think, sort of at the same venue. I don't quite know, but I've been hearing, I think he has done a race for them, I think. by what I'm hearing, because I did see him in different ovals. He is in the Cup Series, by the way. He did win at Austin as well in that one. In wet conditions, that was red flag. So it's going to be interesting. And Zach, finally, before I move on to the final part of the show, Formula One is back next weekend at Paul Ricard. And I think, Zach, as well, the Flexi Wing scandal is getting very heated, isn't it, between Christian Horner and Toto Wolff?
Yeah, absolutely. There was elements of that over the weekend because Red Bull running Flexi Wings. So is, as you're aware, Mercedes. Red Bull doing rear wing, Mercedes on their front wing. They are doing stricter tests on those wings this weekend. Next weekend, Charlie, for the French Grand Prix. So it'll be interesting to see whether they do run the Flexi Wings on those cars and who will advantage and get disadvantaged from it. This is the Ricard will probably favour Mercedes anyway because they seem to do quite well throughout the years, Charlie, at Paul Ricard, and it's not really surprising that they do so well there. It is, quite a long track, but it's well suited Mercedes, especially the likes of Sector 2, the fast bends, the slow corners. This would be something that would suit Mercedes quite well, I think, Charlie. The expectation is that probably would do. How much Red Bull can gain from it, I don't know. But this Flexi Wing would be very interesting to see going this weekend because the team principals are certainly having a bit of war over words over it, Charlie. Toto, Christian Horner, all having a little spat with each other about it. Not in together, but behind the scenes. They seem to be briefing out things that, your husband and wife would sort of, not enjoy listening to, but yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what happens with these Flexi Wings. I think those Flexi Wings will be rigorously tested. I think there may be changes to them, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting how that gets on. Formula One will return next weekend in France for the French Grand Prix at Paul Ricard, by the way. I'm just confirmed Paul Ricard. But Zach, we're going to finish off this show now by talking about. I want to get back onto the crisis. In fact, I'm going to tie in the border crisis in America and the UK now, because there has been reports of child migrants crossing the channel. This is young children, like unaccompanied, crossing the English Channel. And I saw the other day that over 160 migrants crossed the channel in just 24 hours. It's clear that this route between Calais and Dover is becoming very popular with these migrants. Do you really think the government should crack down harder on asylum?
Well, it's interesting to see, Charlie, because there's obviously going to be some sort of issue with this over the summer, I think. And that's what I think is going to happen. There's going to be some sort of issue. And we're only hearing the start the rumbling of it now. So, obviously certain people made an issue out of it. And, and you can predict who has been making the issue, who hasn't. But I think it's become a bit of a problem. And, where would Priti Patel be on all this? I think she will eventually pop up in this debate, I think. But yeah, that's UK one. In terms of the US, some lawmakers still want to make an issue at the moment. It doesn't appear to be as such an issue, although Kamala Harris has been doing some work this week by going to Guatemala in Mexico to discuss the causes of migration there, why people go to the US-Mexico border, why there is immigration there, and all that sort of thing. But nevertheless, there are some certain lawmakers that are making issues of it. Well, I think Laura Trump was on Judge Gino's show last night on Fox, and rather had the crude suggestion that that people on the border should have shotguns at the ready just in case all these criminals come over. And I'm thinking, wow, that's a bit cruel. These people could be innocently coming over, Charlie, not criminals. I think the problem with some of these politicians is they think every migrant's a criminal. Everyone fleeing war is a criminal. They're all going to destroy us. They're all going to pop out of our country. Stuff like no. I don't think it's that. But nevertheless, that's the problem they're having there. It's left as an issue now here at the moment, but I think there's going to be something else to it coming. I think, Charlie.
I mean, Zach, I am particularly concerned about this because I have the child migrants. Remember what happened in America earlier this year? We had a surge in child migrants crossing the US-Mexico border. I think it was like 9,500 unaccompanied children. They were put into this very poor accommodation. We were reporting on this earlier in the year. They were put into very, very poor accommodation. Like, I'm not joking how poor it was. Apparently, according to Sean Hannity from Fox News, it was called like Biden's cages, or something like that. They weren't very nice. I believe it's improved over there slightly, but in the UK, I think this is. I'm going to ask you a very difficult question here, Zach. Do you think, and this is a question that might be controversial, do you think the UK government should build a border wall between at Dover to stop these migrants coming in or to reduce the numbers?
No. It won't work, Charlie. I'm sorry. It just does not work. There's a difference between between US and Mexico and France and, the UK. In here between France and the UK, we're founded by sea. So there's buggy coming over. You can't get as much as what they call, in America, they call it caravans. And you can't really get that here in the UK. You got sea, so it's dangerous enough as it is. So you don't need a border wall to make it more dangerous and less likely. Otherwise, you look like we're making something like the Great War of China for whatever reason that just looks stuff like that. Secondly, if you do build a wall there, you're killing all the wildlife from the sea, the poor things. Because then you have to drain out all water and then you kill animals with it. And then that just pollute for all the climate change and environmental things about it. You're then doing that. I think the difference between that and US-Mexico is US and Mexico have a land. So it's an easy way for, migrants, illegal, legal asylums to come over, basically, and enter the US. So I mean, does the border wall really work? That's the thing, though. I know the Biden administration this week's announced that they're going to take away the funding from the border wall and move it on to stuff like the military and the US military, which I think is actually a really nice touch, I think, because priorities, I think, are better there than, say, doing it, build a wall that's a waste of money and, not physically responsible. So I don't see the need for it really. It makes no difference. Walls create barriers, not positivity. I don't see, I can't. Walls create more problems than it solves, I think.
It's an interesting one. I mean, I remember, was it a couple of years ago, Donald Trump was building his border wall and then it got sued by Nancy Pelosi for what he said to US media. So it's very clear. It's interesting, Zach, because in the UK, there's been talk about drones being flown over the channel. The talk of the Air Force being deployed, maybe border force having a much more greater influence on enforcing these rules. I was seeing some scenes the other week of these migrants being pulled over by border force like they were used as a taxi service. Do you really think, Zach, we could see potentially, do you think the idea of having drones, RAF, planes, in the channel to sort of patrol this, could you see that being potentially an option in the future to control these crossings?
They may want to use that. I just think it's OTTT. because what the French got to do, and the France have a responsibility as well, is to not let them in. It's very simple. They secure their border there, we secure our border here, and then you won't have that problems. Obviously, France have a responsibility on this. They do have a responsibility in fault this as well. So is England, but I think that's what it needs. Good border security, not all this bringing the RAF, bringing all the the boat, bringing the army, the navy. It scares people. It's harsh rhetoric, I think. I think what you need to do build safe routes so that people can go and flee from whatever country they need to. And then, then you may not have such things going over the border as well, I think. That's how I see it.
It's an interesting one, Zach, isn't it? It's very, very controversial, this issue. I think it's clear. Please comment down below. If you have any questions on the Globetrotter Newscast, please comment down below. I'd like to hear your opinions about this, about the migration crisis here in the UK, because I do really think press coverage of this is going to escalate over the next few weeks, maybe a month. We probably will see more press coverage. It probably might warrant some coverage from the press like it did last year, with summer weather, with warmer weather approaching. I really think with calm seas, this is the happy hunting ground for migrants, illegal migrants to cross the channel. So it is very, very clear. But I'm going to move on now, Zach. Final thing I'm going to talk about before we wrap this up is something that I think a lot of people who over the last year have been wanting us to sort of talk about is, well, they're going to actually talk about this, Zach, now, because over the last year, Brits have had to live with restrictions on their freedoms, and many businesses face uncertainty ahead of them with potentially extensions of restrictions beyond the 21st of June. What do you see, Zach, happening with the furlough scheme? Do you reckon that will end as planned in September, or do you think that might be extended once again to give more businesses support?
I think the furlough won't be extended. I don't think that will happen because it ends in September, October, I think it does. And I think there's plenty enough time for restrictions to be lifted by then for that to, not happen. But yeah, I can see furlough being lifted as normal. I think what they need to do, obviously, is put in enough financial support if needed to be, for there to be, meaningless business survivals. That's what they need. There's some sectors in the industry that have been shut down for a very long time, and they will want to reopen.
This is a big issue, Zach, because many businesses, like many pub landlords and many areas like we discussed earlier on in the podcast, are facing potential extinction and potential collapse because they've been shut for so long, or they haven't been able to let many people in. Like, what's your messages to businesses in like hospitality, sole traders, self-employed, people who like night and comedy clubs who haven't been able to open for last year? What's your message to them on how to seek financial support during this difficult time?
Well, I think I think the thing is about them is, I feel very sorry for them, really, to be fair. That's what I feel. And, there's obviously a government scheme that they're still going at the moment. I think that's the thing. So they can apply online as usual. But, yeah, I mean, for furlough will not be enough for some of these businesses, really, to be fair. And they'll have to get individual support. There's not much really that else can really do, really, to be fair. It's just, it'll be unlucky if they can't reopen. That's all I've got to say.
There's a lot of Tory MPs, Zach, that are warning of many more businesses going bust if these lockdown restrictions are extended. It's a big problem for companies, many of whom, like, as we've seen, I remember a company, I think Arcadia, going into administration. Debenhams in Basildon shut down. I think, Zach, this final question I'm going to ask, I think this is really starting to kill our high streets massively. When you look at over the last year, with lockdowns and that, the inactivity of people going shopping is massively reduced. I just feel like shopping is a massive part, an essential part of people's lives. I went shopping the other week and I was really pleased to see people working, just selling their stock, selling their products. I think the last year for the retail industry has been really challenging, seeing our high streets dead. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, that'd be the last thing that you would, ever want to see, really, to be fair. That's the last thing that, anyone would want to see happen. And it would not look very good at all to see empty high streets. So, yeah. Can you imagine a dead high street, Charlie? Just, what's the point of them? What's the point of our towns? What's the point of our villages then? They'll be dead as a dough. It would be horrible. They wouldn't really look that pretty, to be fair.
No, I know. And you got to think as well about the economic recovery. This is a very, very important thing. We need bustling high streets. We need to see this being part of the economic recovery, getting businesses trading again, getting people back into the workplace. We really need to see businesses operating like they used to, because we need to have an economic recovery. We need a strong recovery from COVID, because if we don't have a strong recovery, Zach, we are in big, big trouble, aren't we, when it comes to future economic crisis? Potentially.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. The economy is getting better, Charlie. There's no doubt about it. The economy is getting much better because of the way the vaccines are working. They're opening up. The economy is getting better. I don't, there are obviously businesses that will just want that final push. So yeah, our economy is coming back. There will be some that just need a bit more on June 21st, whether that happens or not. They'll want that.
Yeah. I certainly understand people's frustrations right now, and we'll keep you updated with all the news about the economic recovery as soon as we get that in as well, and about the 21st of June, which there'll be an announcement tomorrow from the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, in Downing Street. But that's all we got time for today here on the Globetrotter Newscast. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again next time for another edition of this podcast. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Take care and goodbye.